Hey everybody, this is a little video about how to make wine using wild fermentation. To start off, you got to collect some grapes. So these are some Cayuga and Traminette grapes we've been growing totally biodynamically, so no spray, totally natural growing techniques. We've been growing it here in North Wilkesboro, harvested it just yesterday. Grapes on their surface have a whole bloom of yeast. So what we're going to do is try and get this natural yeast to ferment and produce our wine with no added commercial yeast. So everything you need is on the blooms here. All we're going to do is crush them. If it was a much bigger batch, I'd be crushing with my feet, but this is small enough to crush with my hands. We're probably going to make like one bottle of wine out of it, but this is for educational purposes and for me to enjoy a bottle of wine that I made out of this year's vintage. So I've got a bucket here. Here's my cat, it's gonna help me here. I've got a bucket of grapes. We're just gonna squeeze them all. And we really wanna just mash them up, make sure all these grapes are squeezed. And we're gonna make an orange wine out of this. So orange wine is white wine that's actually sat on its skins for a little while, and on its skins actually provides a lot of tannin, a lot of structure, and a lot of flavor, and a bit of color. So that's how you end up with your white wine actually looking more of an orange color. It's not orange because of actual fruit oranges, it's simply just the color of the fruit as it sits on its skin. So you can see we're drawing a lot of juice out of these grapes. And you're going to create, as long as you have a layer of liquid, it's going to allow the yeast to have a breeding ground where it can reproduce. So our natural yeast is starting to get into solution. And you have a similar effect with foot stomping if you're using a larger vessel and more grapes at once. Like most of our wines we do commercially at Stardust Cellars, those are all foot stomped. And what that does is it helps to gently extract a lot of the juice and a lot of flavor. And you're able to do so without creating a lot of massive amounts of bitterness that you get from the harder pressing equipment that people will use. And we'll take this mashed grapes and we'll just pour it right into a tank. And we usually do it bucket by bucket, and we'll just throw it right in to a larger fermenter. And we actually leave it open top, so without closing it, and that allows yeast in the air to come in and start breeding and adding to the yeast that are already on the grapes. Plus, yeast likes a lot of oxygen to replicate. So early on, when you want a lot of yeast to grow up fast, you'll allow this yeast to grow up and outcompete any of the bacteria and other spoilage issues. They get outcompeted by the yeast. It starts producing its own carbon dioxide, which prevents a lot of the acetobacter and a lot of vinegar production from happening. So as long as you get a healthy yeast bloom to start fermenting early on, you actually don't have to worry about protecting from oxygen, because the oxygen will actually get pushed away by that blanket of carbon dioxide that's going to prevent oxidation of your wine. So early on, it's actually beneficial and convenient to just do an open fermenter batch like this. So now the biggest thing is on top of all of these grapes, you're going to end up with little blooms of mold that's going to be able to grow if you're not able to get a quick fermentation to start. I highly recommend mixing it and stirring it constantly in the beginning to ensure that all of your grapes get under the liquid where mold cannot grow. Mold doesn't grow under water, it only wants to be on the surface. So as long as any of the mold spores present get submerged underwater on a regular basis, and you're producing alcohol and carbon dioxide in your fermentation, you'll actually have a healthy and mold-free fermentation up until it slows down. Once it slows down, you have to do something about it. You'll put it into a closed jar, and we'll likely put it in the fridge just to cold crash a little bit early and make a nice kind of semi-sweet white wine. And then at the end, what we're going to do is use a soda stream to force carbonate to make it a bubbly white wine. It's something you can do at home with simple equipment, but we're going to do this all by hand. All right, so we got some wine ready to go. It'll start wild fermenting. I might put a little cheesecloth or a lid on top of it just to make sure flies don't get in, but that's it. That's the beginning of wild winemaking. See y'all next time.